Hi everyone, my name is Eva. I'm an executive wellness consultant, and today I wanted to share a couple of herbs that you could use for yourself. And actually, one of them will be more of a veggie that you can incorporate into your diet. And then we'll be switching over to two stories in the illustrated Bibles, story by story. And if I feel extra ambitious, I'll share an extra two stories. So we'll start off with this one first, from the Illustrated Encyclopedia of Healing Remedies. I have frankincense, which is one of the herbs that was brought to Jesus, the baby Jesus. Let me just read the reason why. One of the wise men brought frankincense to the baby Jesus. It says, the wise men brought, let me just read it from this angle here so you can see me better and I'm not looking down while I read this. The wise men brought Jesus three symbolic gifts: gold representing his kingship, frankincense honoring his divinity as a priest, myrrh foreshadowing his sacrificial death and burial. These valuable gifts were customary for high-ranking figures and acknowledged Jesus' identity as the King of Kings, Son of King, a Son of God, an ultimate sacrifice. The reason I'm getting into this is because I feel it gives you a better background for why this herb is significant in the Bible. And I'm sure you figured it out by now that the reason why I get into the Bible so much is because it's subconscious to all of us. It brings in faith, and I can tell you God is more real than our flesh and blood. There's been an enormous amount of miracles that have been documented for many years, and you can do your own research, Google it, you'll find it. But what's important here is that I always try to integrate God into wellness, because the Bible actually talks about wellness, and it is fundamental in order to get to move forward and to progress and feel ambitious and have that ambitious presence and have God come through you so that you can feel better about yourself. But it starts with you, and you also have to radiate his energy. So that's the reason why I like bringing him up so much in almost all my videos. I think it's important because, again, it's important to have faith. Faith keeps the goal in mind, and so you always want to start with your goal and work backwards, is how most people that I've interacted with, especially working at Harvard University, I was able to communicate with a faculty member of the founder that I used to work for. And I asked him, what's the best way to get to where I want to be? And he said, you have to work backwards. You start with the end goal in mind, and then you work backwards to understand how to get to your destination, your goal. And so let's see. Let me just finish what this is. The three gifts that were given to to Jesus, to baby Jesus. And another thing here, this is like the same theme that's coming up in my mind from 2 dreams that I had within the last 2 weeks. I was given something special for my hair by a high-ranking person. And it's so funny that I'm bringing this up as a gift. Someone in my gift gave me something white, and it symbolically, it meant purity. And I think it meant fortune also, and possibly wealth as well. I have to look at the description again, but the other day I also dreamt of having pearls on me, and if you're wondering how I'm keeping my hair up, I have these 2 clips back here that are made out of pearl, and so this kind of like ties in with gifts, which is such a coincidence. I didn't mean to bring this up about gifts, but I think it's important. The gifts explained: gold, a gift for royalty, recognizing Jesus as king; frankincense, a fragrant scent used in temple worship, symbolizing Jesus' priesthood and divine nature; myrrh, it's spelled Myrrh. For those of you who are not familiar with that, what that is: a spice used for anointing the dead, prophetically pointing to Jesus's death and burial for humanity's sins. It says the presentation of these gifts is recorded in the Gospel of Matthew 2:11 and celebrated in Christianity. Okay. So back to this. I guess this is what it looks like, so you can see for yourself. That's what frankincense looks like. And I'm just gonna try to hold it up so that I'm not looking down the entire time. Frankincense essential oil, also known as, what is this? Olibanan, is distilled from the resin produced by bark of a small North African tree. Wonderfully calming and richly fragrant. It is considered a spiritual oil used by many to encourage meditation. Meditation is so important, and you can do that through praying the rosary or simply talking to God, or and you can do that on your own in the mornings or as you wake up for the first maybe 5 to 20 minutes. It's a way to build awareness and maybe also sometimes channeling in God by closing your eyes and using your imagination. But I think the best thing to do is maybe to sit a bit up against a wall and sitting on a cushion, or kneeling. You can also do that by kneeling, putting your, so kneeling so that you rest your bottom on your feet. And so you're kneeling all the way down, resting your body on your legs' weight, and so that you're awake when you're in the morning. You're not still in that laying down position. But if you have to be laying down, absolutely laying down, I would recommend putting a prayer YouTube video is what I listen to sometimes in the morning to get the day going and to get the circadian rhythm going. Also, I like to listen to prayer videos. It is really just a video on prayer running in the background, and it's There's no face associated with the video, but it shows landscape, and it sometimes they narrate verses from the Bible, and they use music to really radiate, I would say, life. I would say, yeah, they use music to radiate life into your body so that you kind of get the day going by gently waking up, and as opposed to having an alarm waking you. You always want to try to wake up gently, because that really is you don't ever want to wake your body up abruptly, because it really is not good for you. Because you can always create disease in your body, like psoriasis or all these skin issues, unintentionally, by forcing your body to do things that is unnatural. And so when you wake up in the morning from sleeping all night and not being immobile, I think the best thing to do is to wake up softly and gently, doing that for yourself. So frankincense properties is immune stimulant, antiseptic, anti-inflammatory. This is really important. I'm really excited about this doctor, actually, where I actually had this in mind 4 years ago when I started my website and this business in mind. And I was watching him on one of my favorite YouTube channels. I'll share that in a moment, but I don't want to forget, so I'm gonna write it down. And I'll get to that in a moment. I just want to finish reading what frankincense is. And as I speak, these things come up, but I want to make sure that I share them with you, because I think they're important and they're for a reason. And I want to make sure I'm sharing this with you so that I'm not keeping all of these great things that I feel like could be helpful to you every day moving forward. Because we're all here to love each other, and that's the whole point. Okay, so getting back to this, the description of frankincense is slows breathing and calms their nerves and digestive system, relieving anxiety, depression, nervous tension, emotional upset, and stress-related digestive problems. Helps with respiratory conditions such as asthma, colds, chest infections, chronic bronchitis. It helps with cysts and irregular I don't think I want to read that part. Right, so you can actually purchase it as an oil. Just 2 drops. There's a recipe here. Inhalation for dry coughs. Add 2 drops of frankincense, 2 drops of lavender, 2 drops of cypress to a bowl of steaming hot water. Lean over the bowl, cover your head with a towel, and inhale the aroma for 5 to 10 minutes. So that's how you can use frankincense. Okay, so getting back to this fun story about what I found recently and the whole intention behind this YouTube and business that I started, because I think it's very important. I'll let you know, this is a new book that's out. Let me see if I can find the woman's name. Her name is Dr. Mayim Bialik. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce her name exactly. I love this person. I actually grew up watching her. She's actually Blossom. To me, she'll always be Blossom, but she is a doctor at the same time. And she was on this show called Blossom for I don't know how many years. But I really admire her. You know, she has a lot of inner strength and self-belief is why she's gotten this far. So I really admire her. And not only that, is that very specifically, she's had guests that will not go on other people's show because they feel that they get asked the same questions. And so this person specifically went on her show because he likes her style of asking questions. She's very intelligent. And I'll tell you who this person was who refused to go on anybody else's podcast because he felt that he was just being asked the same questions and he would just say the exact same answer. And I feel like people should feel more courageous to get out of their comfort zone and try to do more research and try to find more intelligent questions to ask guests. And it gives me more ideas also. But I'll tell you who this was. He's very interesting, and he's been on other people's podcasts, but he mentioned during her show that he was really excited to talk to her because he knew that he would have I guess, I don't know if you want to say palatable. I can't even pronounce that word. It's a hard say to... What I'm trying to say is that he knew that she would ask tasty questions that he would feel intrigued and would stimulate the side of his brain and his curiosity to answer questions in a more descriptive, intriguing, and intelligent way than he had in the past. And so I'll tell you who this is. Let me just see if I can.
Rob.
His name is Dr. Bernardo Kastrup. And he talks about consciousness. And so this is the guest that refused to go on anybody else's podcast. And he went on hers and he was very excited. The only thing I do want to criticize is that she didn't really do a good job at... I'm sure she did that after the show and before, or maybe after, thanking him for going on her podcast and really kind of highlighting that maybe flattery for him wanting to go on her podcast. But I think it may have been just brushed underneath the carpet because they didn't want to... sometimes people are so humble that they don't want to bring a kind of attention to themselves and say, oh, well, thank you for coming on our show. Sometimes people who are not necessarily introverted, but really are very cautious about coming across too arrogant. And so I think that's why it may have been brushed underneath the rug and wasn't talked about when he brought that up in conversation, that he specifically decided to tell them that he decided to go on their show. Sorry if that's long-winded, but there's no way of explaining this to you unless I explain it that way. And so I don't know how to exactly say her name because it's really challenging. It's Dr. Mayim Bialik. To me, again, like I said, she'll always be Blossom. I really loved her show growing up, and I just think she has humor mixed with intelligence, and I just get a good kick within the last year how she's surprised about spirituality and near-death experiences, how very real they are. And so by now I think she's gotten more used to the idea, and because it's these are topics that are being spoken about more often. And so anyhow, that was the guest, and the more recent guest she had on is
when my dad
let's see, his name is Dr. Will Bulsiewics. Something very funny that when I was looking up his name, I initially started looking his name up as Bill, and I forgot his name was Will. And he talks about that in the interview. I think I recommend going and watching this episode, because he talks about how his father came through and his father has passed away, and on a certain YouTube channel he was on, they changed his name to Bill. But I also looked up his name as Bill maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes before he had mentioned the story about his father being Bill. And so his father's Bill, he is Will, so they're all William, and his son is William also, but his William is Liam. I went to school in high school with a guy whose name was Liam, so I think that's a cute name. And this doctor actually, so he pretty much has summed up what I initially thought of 4 years ago, and has actually, quite honestly, I feel like has been in some religions. It just hasn't been spoken about more prevalently. And now that this doctor is talking about it, I want to be able to share that with more people, because the goal, the real true goal of all of this is to have more people heal and more people believe that they heal. The miracles that happen, actually, they heal themselves, is because it's the belief in themselves and belief in God that will cure them. That is how you heal. But I really feel it is God that's working through you. But first, it has to be profound, and just like concrete out on the sidewalk, concrete anywhere on the world that is unbreakable, well, for the most part. Or maybe think of steel. Your faith has to be unbreakable. You really have to believe with all your might, and exactly like the power of the sun. It has to be that intense that you have to believe that you will heal. That is how you heal. Anyone heals, in how these miracles happen. Because I was trying to figure out how are these people miraculously healing, and to the conclusion that I came up with was, these people are healing because it's the belief within, it's this unbreakable belief and force as equal as the sun. So if you can think of the sun as being one of the most powerful things in the universe, because it's blinding, and it has so much force, it has so much heat, that faith, that belief in God needs to be the equivalent of the intensity of the sun. So that's how I can explain to you that, these miracles happen around the world. It is it's a combination of things. So it's a combination, just like there's God in the universe, there's three, right? The Trinity that they talk about, it has to be a combination of all things. It has to be a combination of God. It has to be a combination of yourself, body, and then belief. It has to be like all three things together. Otherwise, and that faith cannot be unbroken. And this is leading into the next stories that I'll be sharing with you. That is so exciting because I've had epiphanies that you have to have undeniable. Your faith has to be so intense in God that it has to be unbreakable. And so I'm excited to share with you the stories that we'll get into soon. But I wanted to share with you that this concept that this doctor has that came on here has a new book that I would urge you to go out and get if you want to heal. I would put him up there as same as this other gentleman that his name escapes me, but he talks about being on a diet to heal your psoriasis or to heal your body altogether through food. And you can heal your body, but it has to be the right foods. And if we're all looking for longevity, I think we're just about there. It just needs to be incorporated into the day. And the sooner that we can have more people be healthy, the sooner that the earth and heaven will be merged. God will have reason and he'll have mercy on us. Otherwise, things can change. But I have faith that we can push the earth, tilt it in the direction where God will have mercy on us and he will send us all his love. And with these near-death experiences that I've learned about is that we can experience God's love here on earth by loving each other. That's really the key, quite honestly. If we want to experience God's love here on earth, all we need to do is love each other like brothers, and more than brothers and sisters, really. It is like unconditional love for each other and forgiving one another. There's a book out there called The Radical Forgiveness. Bobby, I'll give you credit for this, even though I'm sure you got, a lot of great ideas from Marissa Peer. I absolutely love Bobby. She is this YouTuber that I found maybe a year or two ago, and she recommends this book called Radical Forgiveness, where you forgive anyone and everyone as though you have forgotten what they've done. And if you don't feel comfortable with that, you could still be cordial and polite to them. But let me see so the book here that Dr. William Bulsiewics recommends, and I'll add this title so you can find it for yourself in the description box below. His book is called Plant Powered Plus. It says, explains why your gut health is a story of your brain-gut connection. He shares why filling the God-shaped hole is a biological requirement to reduce inflammation and start to heal. So this is what I'm talking about, and what it's such a coincidence that I recommended frankincense, which is an anti-inflammatory herb. When you forgive, when you are undeniably, you have to be kind of delusional about forgiving yourself and loving yourself, so that when you bring self-love in, you're able to love others. Chase Hughes talks about this, another YouTuber. He's really great, and I really like his earlier videos, untouched videos, and he talks about these two things, about having delusional forgiveness for yourself so that you can move forward to where you want to be. And he talks about something else, but my mind escapes me right now. But that is a trick in order to get moving towards your goals. Okay, so that is that. And so this book that he mentions, Dr. Will Bulsiewics, is kind of like the premise and the whole point of my consulting, where it starts with reaching out to your angels, reaching out to God. It's with this anti-inflammatory idea where you're wanting to suppress inflammation as much as you can. And you can do that through also the type of people that you surround yourself with and the environment. I absolutely love the Brazilian culture, and it's showing me that they drink this special drink called passion fruit, and they drink it right before they go on stage to calm the nerves. They're one of the best people who can smile, laugh, and be lighthearted and in really hard, tough moments, and can lighten up the mood no matter what. You all of a sudden there's this shift in mindset, and you forget why you're so angry, and then you remember about how silly it is to be in that really angry state, which is kind of like doing harm to yourself. And so these people have figured out how to shake things off, dust things off, and then push forward and be gentle with each other and help each other out. That's one of that community. I know they're known for helping each other like brothers and sisters. That's what I found from spending time with them, and I really love their music, their food, the culture, the types of scents, the fruit that they eat, and so I really admire that. So you can do that in all other cultures, like the Irish. Love the Irish. I used to sit next to someone that at work who had all these sayings. She would say like Mary, Mother, Jesus, something. It was just like when she spoke, it was the funniest thing ever. That's another culture that I love. My brother-in-law is half Italian, half Irish, and so I'm familiar with it. Absolutely. Let me see if I can pull up Irish sayings. I don't know much about their food in general. And actually, quite honestly, the person that I sat with, she was really healthy. I really loved her mood, her style, her kind of laid back, how calm she was. She grew up in Galway, Ireland, and I think they ate a lot of fish because it was right next to the water. And I'm sure it was absolutely beautiful, with scenic and, next to cliffs. And what I have found and learned in places like those is that they are one of the most healthiest people because there's omega found in the grass. And that is what the cows eat, and that is what they're consuming. The people there are consuming these animals who have high levels of omega, which is also found in fish. Sorry if I'm going overboard with what I've learned in the past, but I think it's important to share with you. This is the saying she used to say: Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. That's what she would say. Um, I had a list going. For some reason, I lost it. I had a slew of things that she would used to say when she sat next to me, and I loved it. I was very lucky to sit with her and She's about 70 or maybe 65. She was about 70. I felt like, I'm pretty sure. She was a lot older. Um, and she just, her face actually did, there was like a nice gloss to it, even though she did look older, but it just seemed like she really tried taking care of herself with creams. And she had red hair. Her name was Kathleen. That's her name. She was really, really a lot of fun to work with. Okay, so the second veggie, this is a veggie that I recommend here that is found in this book. It is asparagus, which you could also combine it with fish. Is very tasty. Everything that I recommend, please talk to your doctor, or don't take it unless, if you're allergic to it, evidently don't consume it. So it says here is a Herbicus perennial of the Lacelies family. Asparagus is it is cultivated for its tender shoots, which appear in early spring. 1806, the French chemist Louis Nicolas Vauquelin isolated asparagine, the first amino acid to be discovered from the asparagus plant. The properties are liver tonic and aids digestion. The uses are for urinary complaints, arthritis. Drink asparagus water. The water remaining after steaming asparagus spears. And then it says freshly cooked asparagus will tonify the liver, may be used in cases of liver congestion and conditions such as hepatitis. It promotes elimination through the urine. Then it says asparagus tincture can be added to food and drinks to encourage the elimination of urine. May help control the symptoms of... I don't want to read that. Asparagus is taken internally. It may be eaten as a food or prepared as a tincture. Okay. Give me a minute. I need to take a quick break, and then I'll be back to read you the other two stories from the Bible. I'm very excited to be here with you tonight. I didn't know I was going to share all this, but I'm really happy I am, because this is the whole point. I want to share almost all the secrets to life to share with you, because the more that we share with everyone, the more prosperous we'll all become, and the better we will impress God, and He will send us blessings. That is the whole point. And I want blessings for all of us. And that's all I really want. I really want for God to send us His blessings and His love. And the more that we show love here, the better luck we will have, and the better we will be. We will impress Him when times come to cross over, and he does a life review. There is another NDE that I watched the other day, what was really interesting, and this is the same theme that has come across over and over. They talk about how when you have this NDE, either God or Jesus or a family member that you'll be meeting when you cross over is that you have a life review, but in the life review, it seems as though you have 360 peripheral view. You're able to see all around, and it shows you screens on different moments of your life, of different ways that of things that you went through, and so you want to make a good impression as you go, as you're figuring these things out, because God will ultimately decide where you will go next. And so we want to make sure that we are good humans. And the way that I've seen, and I'll get into this later in this video, joy and happiness is coming, but it's got to be all hands on deck, and it's got to be all of us, so that God will share those blessings with us. So I will be right back. Don't go anywhere. I just need a small break, and I'll get back to you with the stories. Okay, I'm back. Thank you for waiting. Okay, so I have these stories for you. Just one more thing. So I did it again yesterday. I flipped open my book for fun to see what would come up for us. And there are two coincidences here, actually, that I found. The second one is like undeniable. Like it was definitely God who chose this story for us, for me to share with you. It's so much fun to see this because it could only be him sharing these stories and coincidences, so that it's ingrained in your mind. You'll always think about it, because the whole point is for us to be better humans and to be more caring and more forgiving and more loving with each other. Okay, so the first story is Peter and Cornelius. And then I'll show you a picture of what it looks like with Peter. And I guess these are God's feet or an angel. And then I'll show you the image. This is the image. That's Peter. Those are feet. And then these are animals. I think this is a cow or something. And then this is another animal. And I'll tell you the story. It really shows 3 times God mentions to him that these are animals that everyone is able to eat. And then Peter refuses to eat some of the animals because he says that they're unclean. But as of that moment, Jesus was asking him to obey. And I've recently found another video with Jesus where another prophet disobeys him, and you never want to disobey Jesus or God. And sorry, this is so hard for me, because it's not hard, because I don't want to cross or draw outside the lines when it involves God. I want to make sure that I make a good impression, and I think I have so far by helping many people. But what I want to make sure is that I want to come across well for him and for everyone, right? To have good intentions. And so I'll read to you what this painting is. It's Peter's vision. I think this came to him in his dreams. Peter is a prophet of Jesus. He's one of the 12 prophets he chose. And so I'll read you the story of Peter and his vision. But then I will also share the second story that I'll get into. Is I'll explain who Peter is. And if we have extra time, I think there are 2 more stories that I wanted to share with you. I might share just a small part of one of the third story that I want to share. And so, yeah, the second story that I wanted to share with you is really explain who Peter is, because not everyone knows who the 12 disciples are, and Peter was one of the first Jesus chose as one of his prophets or disciples. Here it says on the side before Peter traveled. Oh, sorry, I don't think I finished reading what the vision, what this painting is. Peter's vision, the Italian. I'm having difficulty reading this. Barak. I think that's what it says. Sorry, let me just put it under lighting. Yes, Barak. Artist. You know, I can't really see. I'm going to have to use more light. The Italian Baroque artist Domenico Fetti portrayed Peter's strange vision of foods descending from heaven in Peter's vision of the unclean beasts, 1619. So that's where the image is from, 1619. You can see Peter's just waking up from his, or dreaming in his sleep. Okay. So I'll read the side here. It says, Peter traveled around the countryside telling the good news about Jesus, helping Annas walk. While Peter was visiting the Christian community in the town of Lydda, he met a man named Annas, that's Aeneas, who had been paralyzed and bedridden for 8 years. Peter said to him, Jesus Christ heals you. That's Acts 9:34. The man stood up. Jesus healed many sick people in a similar way. So Peter basically healed this man that could not walk for 8 years through Peter's words, and he said, Jesus Christ heals. And again, that's found in Acts 9:34. So Jesus healed many sick people in a similar way, found in Matthew 8:3, and then there's 8:13, 8:14, and 9:22. And he gave this power to his apostles. I'll have to get into that at another time, but it shows that it's on page 342 and 43. I'm actually curious what that is. Oh, I think I may have already read this part to you guys at a different point, at a different video. It says Jesus sends out his followers. I think I may have already read this. I'll have to look back. You can also purchase this book. It's more available at Barnes & Noble. I found 3 copies that you can buy. I want to buy another copy because this one I've torn apart since I've been carrying it everywhere. I want to get a fresh copy, so I want to get another illustrated Bible story by story because I love this book. It just has so much information, and the paintings and the artifacts and the information in it. It's just been so much fun learning from this Bible. And then next month for my birthday, do plan to buy a regular Bible with, so I can take notes in it. One that has the ability to write notes in the Bible. It says here, what else? I'll read this too because I think it might be important or explain. This is another story about healing. I'm going to have to take this off because I can't really see very well. It says, Tabitha raised to life. Oh, yes, this is a lot like another story in this Bible. While Peter was in Lydda, a woman named Tabitha became sick and died in Joppa. She had been generous to many people, making items of clothing for the poor or widowed. The Christians sent for Peter, who knelt beside her and prayed, then called out, "Tabitha, get up." That's found in Acts 9:40. So this is talking about near-death experience here, I feel like. He brought somebody back from the dead, which has been happening or has been, people are talking about it more often here in the last year or two with these near-death experiences that have been happening for many years, last 30 years or 40 that people have been talking about. And I think they were doing the same thing a lot like Jesus, where they were bringing people back to life from the dead. And it doesn't sound like they were dead for too long. They were able to bring them back to life if they had died a day or two, or just that same day, it sounds like. Tabitha opens her eyes and stood up. There are several examples of Jesus bringing the dead back to life. See, it talks about near-death experiences. This is another coincidence that I found as I was reading this story, because I've been doing more research and listening to more near-death experiences. It's quite curious. A lot of people are curious about that realm, and being prepared for it also. And God will choose everyone's destiny when we cross over, when that time comes. So it's best to make a good impression. It says, analysis, clean and unclean. God's law told Jews to keep themselves clean and outlined. I might not read this part because I don't think it's relevant. I don't think there's enough information to make sense of this section here, so I'll just skip it for now. I do remember reading some of it, and I didn't think it was too relevant. Peter and Cornelius is the title of the story. Jews understood themselves to be God's chosen people who kept themselves clean, quote unquote clean, by following special customs and laws. Peter had a strange vision and an encounter with a Roman that challenged his views about purity. Peter was staying in the port town of Joppa. Sorry, I'm just gonna put this back to see if maybe. So the light is not so bright. Peter was staying in the port town of Joppa in the house of a leather worker named Simon. One day around noon, Peter was on the roof of Simon's house praying. He began to get hungry while the food was being prepared. He had a strange vision. He saw heaven opened and something like a large sheet being let down to the earth by its four corners. The cloth was full of creatures, all kinds of four-footed animals, as well as reptiles and birds. Let me see if I can get a better visual for you so you can kind of understand what he's talking about, because as I was reading this, I didn't understand what he was talking about, but when I found a better visual in Google, I was able to better understand. It's so funny because the first thing that comes up is this image, which I've just shown you. that's in the book. But there is a better image that I saw, because I didn't quite understand it. I think this might be it. This might be it. This might actually work to kind of give you a better visual of what Peter was seeing in his vision. So you can see Peter is here, and then there is this big sheet with all these animals on them. And they're coming down from the heavens. And Peter saw all of this in his dream or vision. He saw heaven opened, and something like a large sheet being let down to earth by its four corners. The cloth was full of creatures, all kinds of four-footed animals, as well as reptiles and birds. That's Acts 10:12. Then Peter heard a voice from heaven saying, "Get up, Peter. Kill and eat." That's found in Acts 10:13. Peter was shocked because according to Jewish law, some creatures were clean and could be eaten, while others were unclean and could not be eaten. The sheet from heaven contained an assortment of both clean and unclean creatures. Quote, "Surely not, Lord," he exclaimed. That's Peter telling God. So he's disobeying him, which is not good. And he doesn't understand God's message. And again, God doesn't talk or communicate regularly. He speaks with symbols and signs. So you have to be able to decipher when he communicates with you. And you can't disobey. He had never eaten any unclean thing before, and he was, I'm sorry, I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Sorry, there's so much dust in here. And he was reluctant to do so now. It says he had never eaten any unclean thing before, and he was reluctant to do so now. But the voice said, "Do not call anything impure." But the voice said, again, quote, "Do not call anything impure that God has made clean." So right there he was explaining to Peter with words. He was telling him, don't call anything impure. And he was showing him a full sheet of all these creatures that he said, these are clean, you are able to eat them. Let's keep going and see how Peter reacts again. It says, okay, so quote, "But the voice from God said, do not call anything impure that God has made clean." That's Acts 10:15. Twice more, the voice called out, "Get up, Peter, kill and eat." Again, quote, "Get up, Peter, kill and eat." And twice more, Peter questioned the command. Both times he received the same reply as before. Quote, "Do not call anything impure that God has made clean." Quote. End of quote. Then the sheet full of creatures was taken back into heaven. Isn't that scary? He takes back the sheet with all these creatures that he was inviting him to eat. And Peter says no, twice. Cornelius request. It says Cornelius request. It's the next paragraph. While Peter was wondering about the vision, 3 messengers came to the house looking for him. God's Spirit directed Peter to greet them. While Peter was wondering about the vision, 3 messengers came to the house looking for Peter. God's Spirit directed Peter to greet them. The 3 men, a Roman soldier and 2 servants, told Peter that they had been sent by their master Cornelius, a centurion from the Italian regiment of the Roman army based in Sircia. Let me see if I have the correct pronunciation for the city, name of the city. I just want to make sure that I don't misinform you.
Caesarea.
No, that's wrong.
Caesarea.
Caesarea. So it's pronounced Caesarea. Just one second, sorry. Need a small break. Thank you for waiting. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so where were we? Oh, yes. Okay, so the 3 men, a Roman soldier and 2 servants, told Peter that they had been sent by their master Cornelius, a centurion from the Italian regiment of the Roman army based in Sircia, which was a coastal town 30 miles away. Although he was a Roman, Cornelius greatly admired the Jewish faith and had gained a good reputation among Jews in Caesarea, for being devout and God-fearing. When I say God-fearing, or whenever I read that, it means for having a lot of respect for God. That's all it means. It doesn't mean that you have to fear God. It really means that you have to respect him. And I do believe in that because he punished Moses for a while. So you want to look into that story and I'll share it with you at some point. But even though he was the chosen one, he was definitely punished by God. So you want to make sure that you're consistent and you obey. This is what this story is teaching. the whole point of this is to make sure that you stay consistent and that you don't disobey, because God will punish you. It says, and for his generous gifts to those in need. That's Acts 10:2. The previous afternoon, Cornelius had been visited by an angel who had told him to send some men to Joppa to find Peter and bring him back. The men explained this to Peter, who agreed to go with them to Caesarea. Caesarea spelled Caesarea for those who are curious. Peter's message. As Peter and the men set out the next day, a few Jewish Christian. This is another coincidence here, because I've never heard of a Jewish Catholic. And because I opened this book straight to this page, it was confirmation that I needed to read this story to you. A few days back, or maybe 4 or 5 days ago, I watched a interview with a person that was on Matt Fradd's YouTube channel. Matt's last name is spelled Fradd, and he's a great YouTuber who is I think he's a British Catholic, and he brought on someone that his ancestors come from a lineage that is Jewish. His family moved to, I think it was South or Central America, and then moved to New York, but then he ended up moving to Japan. So he called himself a Jewish Catholic. He calls himself a Jewish Catholic on his YouTube channel. Let me see if I can find it. But I'd never seen that before, because that really sounds a little bit backwards to me, because I've never heard of such a thing, of a person calling themselves a Jewish Catholic, because I don't think I've heard of anything that exists that way. But the way that he explains it is that his background comes from a Jewish from that area of being, I think, from Israel, but his family moved many years back to either South or Central America, and then ended up moving to New York. But after living in New York for a while, he decided to move to Japan. So he's currently living in Japan, and he has his own YouTube channel, and it's called The Jewish Catholic. Let me see if I can find the right title of his YouTube channel. Yeah, the YouTube channel is called The Jewish Catholic, which is really interesting. And I feel he's pretty well read. I'm impressed with him. I feel like he's changed after he's moved over to Japan. I think there has been a shift in him, that he has been able to self-educate a little bit more, and their habits have rubbed off on him. So he's a little bit more disciplined about how he carries himself, is what I've noticed. And I'm sure his routine is a lot like theirs, because they are very structured and disciplined. But what I find admirable is the way that he communicates what he's learned by being a Catholic. So again, this is a man who has converted from being Jewish to being full on a Catholic, but his YouTube channel tells the story, and he talks more about Catholicism, I'm sure, but it's the conversion of being Jewish over to being Catholic. And so I found that to be such a coincidence, because as I was reading this, I was like, oh my gosh, it mentions Jewish Christian, which I've never heard of before. And until I saw this gentleman that was interviewed by Matt, that YouTuber. Let me see Matt's, he calls his YouTube channel something else also. St. Thomas Aquinas or something. I can't remember exactly, but he's certainly British. It's not too clear here. 1 second, sorry. Sorry about that. I have a runny nose. Needed to take care of that. St. Thomas Aquinas, as I hear him say it quite often. Aquinas. I can't fully read. I sometimes hear him say St. Thomas Aquinas. I think I hear him say. Oh, I see. It's called, he's the host of Pints with Aquinas, is what it's called, his YouTube channel. So Matt is a host of the Pints with Aquinas, and his website is pintswithaquinas.com. So yeah, I think he's had his YouTube channel for several years. It looks like he joined in 2013, and he's had really interesting guests, really nice guests like Lily Rose. She's another Catholic, converted Catholic actually. She converted from, I think, being either Jewish or an atheist altogether, and decided to become Catholic. So you may want to look into her YouTube channel as well. But I found this was such a coincidence in this story. Getting back to this, about how this first line explains this. It says, Peter's message is the name of the title of the next paragraph. And it says, as Peter and the men set out the next day, a few Jewish Christian believers from Joppa joined them. Meanwhile, at Cornelius's house, the centurion's family and friends gathered in expectation. When Peter entered, Cornelius fell at his feet in worship. So it looks like when Peter entered, Cornelius fell at Peter's feet in worship, but Peter asked him to get up, saying, quote, I am only a man myself. That's found in Acts 10:26. Peter told Cornelius that although Jewish law forbade a Jew from visiting, sorry, I'm going to read that again. Peter told Cornelius that although Jewish law forbade a Jew from visiting a Gentile's house, quote, God has shown me that I should not call anyone impure or unclean. Peter told, sorry, I have to read this again to just make sure that I understand this. Peter told Cornelius that although Jewish law forbade a Jew from visiting a Gentile's house, quote, God has shown me that I should not call anyone impure or unclean. That's Acts 10:28. He asked why Cornelius wanted to see him, and Cornelius re-encountered his visit from the angel. That means he told him about his encounter with the angel, where Cornelius had met with that angel. Peter then began to speak to the gathering. So there was a small gathering at Cornelius' house. He said that he now realized that God did not favor any race or people, but accepted everyone into his faith. So this is where I understood why God wanted me to share this with you, because this is very important. I'll read it to you again so it makes sense. This is the whole point and the meaning behind that vision that Peter saw from God, bringing down that group of animals and explaining that they were all pure and they were all ready to be eaten because it was a mix of animals and breeds. And under Jewish law, I guess, Peter had learned not to eat some of those animals, but according from that time on, he was explaining to Peter that all these animals are pure and you can eat them, you can kill and eat them. But the meaning behind that symbolism or vision meant, now Peter said he now realized that God did not favor any race. I'll read this. Peter then began to speak to the gathering. He said that he now realized that God did not favor any race or people. So that's what he's trying to say, that he doesn't favor one race or the other, or any people in general, any class from below to the top, any race he doesn't favor. And that was the reason why I was sharing this story. This is the message from God for today. Paul went on to tell them about Jesus' life and his death on the cross, and how he had been raised back to life by God. The risen Jesus, Peter said, had commanded the apostles to testify that he was the Messiah and to preach that Jesus would forgive the sins of everyone who believed in him, Jews and non-Jews alike. As Peter was saying these things, the Holy Spirit filled everyone who heard them. So the Holy Spirit illuminated. They felt this presence of God come into this space, is what it's explaining. Cornelius and his guests began speaking in tongues and praising God. That's Acts 46, 10:46. Seeing this, Peter said, quote, surely no one can stand in the way of being baptized with water. They have received the Holy Spirit just as we have. End of quote. Acts 10:47. And he ordered that they should all be baptized. So this is very interesting. And I'm shocked every time I hear this, but in order to enter the kingdom of heaven, everyone needs to be baptized with water, is what has been explained to me in this Catholic religion. And right here, again, this is another message that God is sharing with us today, that you have to be baptized in order to enter heaven, the kingdom of heaven. So this is urging all of us to do this. And honestly, you can do whatever you like. This is just the message that I found here, that that I'm sharing, and I know from being Catholic, and I'm sure that any Catholic will explain to you that you have to be baptized, and then you have to follow the sacraments in order, right? And it starts with baptism. And right here, he's explaining it to us. And I don't want to disobey. I've already been baptized as a baby. But I'm sharing with you again here. It says, seeing this, said, quote, surely no one could stand in the way of their being baptized with water. They have received the Holy Spirit just as we have. End of quote. That's Acts 10:47. And he ordered that they should all be baptized. So again, just as I said, if you are thinking of becoming Catholic, that's the very first step. And kind of, I would do it just like going out and anything that you have ever done in your life that is fundamental, that I would do just to get it under your belt and just to be prepared and ready. Because if I'm sharing this message with you and you've heard of this and you're thinking of becoming Catholic, I would go out and do it. It's not going to hurt you. And if you're already thinking of doing it, you might as well. It's the beginning of January of the year, and it's January, and for some reason it's already pointing us in that right direction. And I want to share this with you so that you have all the secrets to getting into the kingdom of heaven and being having a good impression in front of God, and starting off in the right foot with him. It's like going and visiting somebody at their home, and you want to make sure that you follow protocol before going and stepping into their houses. You want to respect that, especially if it's God and he's kind of ruling where you're going to go when you cross over. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else here that I need to share. I'll start reading this, and maybe I don't remember if this is important or not. This is so awesome. It just shows artifacts and like stone images that have been found through the years that I can share with you. I'll share this image that's made out of stone, and that is an image of Peter, and it says it was the two servants, and who else that came with him? I wish you guys were here to help me with this. It says he sent somebody and the two servants that came along, right? Maybe it says it here. Conversion of Cornelius is what the image is called, or the stone carving is called. The sarcophagus of the miraculous source, carved within the 4th century AD, shows Cornelius at Peter's feet. Oh no, so this is Cornelius and Peter. So I guess this is Peter, and then this is Cornelius at his feet, kneeling down to him, which is a huge deal, because I guess Cornelius runs the show, right? In reverence, it was extraordinary for a Roman centurion to bow down before a simple fisher. So that's that artifact there. News of what had happened in Circia spread quickly. Peter's explanation. A group of Jewish Christians. See how it's so interesting that it says Jewish Christians? I've never heard of those two terms together. It's like, it's such a backwards thing to hear Jewish Catholic together, but it's such a coincidence that I just learned this term to get these two terms together, within the last week. It's just a coincidence that it's talking about it in the story. It's a fun coincidence. It's a fun synchronicity. There are no coincidences, what I'm learning, I guess. There's no such thing as coincidences, as what I'm learning. Just synchronicities. And then it says, Peter's explanation, a group of Jewish Christians in Jerusalem criticized Peter because they had heard he had entered the house of an unclean Roman and eaten with him. Peter explained everything that had taken place and his vision on the roof of Simon's house to the coming of the Holy Spirit on Cornelius and his household. This is a beautiful image. If you are able to find something somewhere, it's really beautiful to see this group of people with the illumination of God come entering into the room. Then it says, when they heard this, all the believers began to praise God. Okay, so that's the first story. And I'm already an hour and 30 minutes in, so I don't know if it makes sense to keep going and sharing who Peter is. I've pretty much summed it up who Peter is, but I'm sure it'd be interesting for you to hear his story. So let me see if I can just keep going and see if I can sum it up in less than 10 minutes. This is what it shows with Peter. There. I think what I'll do is I'll pause it right here as one video and then create another video so it's not too long and you can still save the next video for the next time. I think this is a good spot to pause. I didn't anticipate this first story to take so long, but I wanted to get all the information and all the facts and everything that I know to you. So I'm going to cut this video since it's already 90 minutes in. And then I'll create a second video specifically only talking about Peter. And then I'll add in maybe the two other stories that I wanted to share with you. But I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. And I will see you on the next video. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.